Never thought my own son would rob me. Not a stranger. Not a hacker. My son. But when I checked my bank account and saw my entire life savings, everything I'd worked for in 67 years, gone. My hands went numb. Then I saw the memo attached to the last transfer for her family. Family first. Her family, not mine. And the worst part? He didn't even deny it. He looked me in the eye and said, "Dad, you'll survive. They won't." That was the moment my heart stopped loving him and started planning what came next, because if he thought I would stay silent, he had no idea who raised him. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and tell us in the comments where you're listening from. My name is Franklin Doyle. I'm 64 years old, and I spent most of my life believing that if you give your child everything, love, stability, sacrifice, they will never turn their back on you. But the day my son emptied my savings to pay off his wife's family debt, I learned the most painful truth of my life. Sometimes the child you build a future for will tear yours apart without hesitation. And what happened after that changed everything. When people talk about betrayal, they imagine dramatic scenes, shouting, slammed doors, family members turning red with anger. But real betrayal arrives quietly. It shows up as a notification on your phone, a number that doesn't look right, a transaction you don't remember making, a sudden coldness in your chest because your mind is screaming, "This can't be right, this can't be happening." But it was happening to me. I sat at my kitchen table that morning, sunlight warming my hands, my tea steaming softly, everything normal, everything peaceful, until it wasn't. I opened my banking app, something I rarely did, just to check if a small pension deposit had arrived, and then I froze. The balance at the top of the screen did not show the number I had spent 40 years building. Not my retirement, not my savings, not the emergency fund I created after my wife passed. It showed $472.19. I blinked. Hard. There had to be a mistake, a system glitch, a fraud alert. I scrolled down, then my stomach twisted so violently I thought I might faint. 15 transactions, all within 1 week, all large, all transfers, all sent to the same account. The memo line on the final one read, "Family first, debt settlement. Family first." Whose family? Not mine, not my blood. And then I saw the sender, my son, my only son. I stared at his name on the screen, my chest tightening. My hands trembled as I clicked his contact. Before I could dial, a message popped up from him. "Dad, don't panic. We use the money for something important. I'll explain later." We, not I, we. I felt my pulse hammer in my ears. I typed back, "What money? Call me now." No answer. I tried calling. He declined. I tried again. Declined. On the third try, he finally answered, but not with words. Just a sigh. A long, exhausted, irritated sigh that I had never heard from him before. "Dad," he said, his voice strangely distant, strained, almost rehearsed. "I knew you'd overreact." "Overreact?" I snapped. "You emptied my savings. Everything I have. What on earth were you thinking?" "It's not like that," he said quickly. "You don't understand." "You're right," I said. "I don't. Explain it to me." Silence. Then, it was for Hannah's family. My heart stopped. His wife, her family. A family I barely knew, a family that had always treated me like I was a burden trapped inside flesh, a family that never liked the fact that my son sometimes helped me with groceries or fixed things around my house. A family that smiled with their mouths and judged with their eyes. I swallowed. "What debt?" I asked. "What are you talking about?" He exhaled again, annoyed. "They were in trouble. Real trouble, Dad, and you always said family helps family." "My family," I shot back, "not hers." Another pause. Then he said a sentence that burned into me like acid. "Dad, you'll survive." "They wouldn't." "Survive." The boy I raised just told me I'd survive losing everything. I didn't know whether to scream or break down. "I trusted you," I whispered. "My entire life's work. You gave it away without asking?" "They needed it more than you do," he said, like it was obvious, like it wasn't a betrayal of everything I had sacrificed to raise him. "I'm retired, Michael," I said. "I'm 64. I don't have time to rebuild that money. His voice went cold. You always find a way. You're resilient. You've told me that my whole life. The cruelty in those words didn't sound like him, at least, not the him I knew. This wasn't your decision to make, I said. It was mine. Well, it's done, he replied. You can be mad, but at the end of the day, we helped people who needed it. There it was again, the invisible hand shaping him, guiding his choices, speaking through him, his wife, her parents, someone. I felt the world go blurry. I'm coming over, I said. We're fixing this together. No, he said firmly. Don't come. Not today. When then? Another long pause. Then Dad, maybe it's best we take a little space. For now. My chest squeezed painfully. Space? Space from what? From me, the father who raised him alone after his mother died? I didn't recognize his tone. Sharp, impatient, dismissive. He was someone else. Someone standing on the other side of a wall I didn't build. Michael, I whispered, my voice breaking. What did they tell you? Dad, he said quietly, almost in warning. Don't start this again. Start what again? The blaming, the accusations, the whole they're turning you against me thing. I froze. I never said that. You didn't have to, he said. I know how you think. No, this wasn't him. Someone had planted that idea. Michael, I have to go, he cut in. We'll talk later. But please, don't make this harder than it needs to be. Then the line went dead. I sat in my quiet kitchen, the air suddenly too heavy to breathe. My savings, gone. My son, different. My future, uncertain. But shock turned into suspicion. Suspicion turned into anger. Anger turned into something sharper, determination. I wasn't letting this end here. I went to my bedroom, opened the drawer where I kept old documents, looking for something, anything that might help me understand the debts my son claimed they had paid. Tax papers, medical bills, old letters. Then I found it. A folded envelope addressed to my son from his father-in-law months ago. I remembered seeing it in a pile but never opened it. Now I did. Inside was a letter, short, blunt. Michael, we need to discuss the financial expectations of joining our family. Some obligations are shared, some are generational, Hannah will explain. Financial expectations, obligations, generational. My breath caught. This wasn't debt, this was a plan. A long-term strategy that required one thing, my son's money, or mine. A knock on the door jolted me, not a soft one. A hard, urgent, authoritative knock. I opened the door slowly, and there she stood. My daughter-in-law, Hannah. Hands clasped, face expressionless. She didn't greet me, she didn't smile, she just said, "We need to talk. Privately." My chest tightened. "What did you do to my son?" I asked. She didn't flinch. Instead, she stepped inside and closed the door behind her. Then she looked me dead in the eyes and said, "If you interfere again, you won't just lose your money. You'll lose him." My blood ran cold. Not from the threat, but from the calm way she delivered it, like she meant every word, and like she wasn't afraid of what came next. Hannah stepped into my house like she owned it. Calm, cold, eyes sharp enough to cut through bone. She didn't sit, didn't look around, didn't pretend to be polite. She just stood there in my living room and said, as if giving a court sentence, "You're becoming a problem." My pulse quickened. "A problem for who?" I asked. "My son? Or you?" Her jaw clenched, just slightly, but enough for me to notice. She walked closer, every step measured, controlled. "You don't understand the pressure he's under," she said. "You don't understand what our family has been carrying." "I understand you drained my savings," I replied. "That's enough pressure for anyone." Her eyes hardened. That money went to good use. It kept people afloat. It honored commitments that go back decades. I shook my head. "This isn't a village. This isn't a community debt. This is your family's mess." A flicker, annoyance, crossed her face. "You think we wanted to ask you?" she said. "You think we enjoyed involving you?" "You didn't ask," I said. "You stole." She inhaled sharply as if she wanted to snap, but forced herself to stay composed. "Franklin," she said quietly, "listen carefully. There are things you don't know, things your son is too gentle to tell you." She moved closer, too close. "Your son is overwhelmed," she said. "He's stretched between us, and he's not strong enough to keep fighting." I narrowed my eyes. "Fighting what?" "Your influence," she said flatly. And there it was. Not sugar-coated, not hidden. She wanted him cut off from me, because with me around she couldn't drain him dry, she couldn't mold him, she couldn't use him. Influence? I echoed. I raised him to think for himself. Exactly, she whispered. And that's the problem. She said it like she was explaining math. Then she stepped back and looked around my home like she was already imagining it empty. He feels guilty about taking the money, she said. But guilt weakens him. We're trying to help him become stronger. Stronger? By isolating him? By stripping him of support? By turning him against his own father? What do you want from me? I asked. She smiled. A small, chilling smile. For you to disappear from his decision-making. Once you're out of the picture, he'll stop doubting himself. And start following you, I said. Her silence was confirmation. You're manipulating him, I said. You and your family. That word is so dramatic, she replied. We're guiding him. He has responsibilities now. Responsibilities he can't escape. The word responsibilities echoed in my skull. Is he in danger? I asked quietly. Hannah's expression remained unreadable. He's overwhelmed, she said. That's all you need to know. No, I said. I need the truth. She sighed, long, frustrated. Fine, she said. You want honesty? Their family debt isn't new, it's generational. It's tied to land disputes, medical bills, bad business decisions, things we didn't create but must honor. We? I asked. My son married you, not your ancestors. She stiffened. In our family, she said slowly, marriage means shared burdens. I felt the truth finally click into place. This wasn't a debt, this was a trap, a cultural net, a financial pit. A chain passed down from one generation to the next. A chain my son walked straight into, blindfolded. And draining my savings was just the beginning, I whispered. Her silence said everything. I stared at her. She stared back, calm as a surgeon. Then she said, You're old, Franklin. You don't need much, but we do. My breath caught. It wasn't even personal for her. It was practical, a simple equation. Use me until I'm empty, then discard me. You're not taking anything else, I said, my voice shaking with rage. She tilted her head. We already have, she said quietly. I frowned. What do you mean? She reached into her bag and pulled out a piece of paper. Folded, crisp, recently printed. She handed it to me. My stomach twisted as I unfolded it. It was a loan agreement, with my name on it. A $60,000 line of credit taken out in my name. Forged signature, forged authorization, my social security number, my address. I felt my knees weaken. You did this? I whispered. She didn't. Answer. She didn't have to. The truth burned in her eyes. This is illegal, I said. You've committed identity theft. She shrugged. No one will believe you, she said. You're old. You're confused. And your son already thinks you're overreacting. My whole body trembled. I'll go to the police. Go ahead, she said. We have messages from you that make you sound unstable, and your son will back us. She stepped closer again. Because he loves me, and I know how to protect him. She leaned in. And if you push him too hard, he'll choose me. My heart broke, into pieces, into dust. I felt something inside me shift. Something that had been soft become steel. She turned toward the door. We're done here, she said. Don't interfere again. She opened the door and froze, because standing on my porch was my neighbor, Mrs. Langley. Eyes wide, mouth open. She had heard everything. Hannah stiffened. Can I help you? She snapped. Mrs. Langley didn't flinch. Instead, she looked at me with something between horror and sympathy. Franklin, she said softly, I think you should see this. She held up her phone. What is it? I asked. She swallowed hard. It's your son, she whispered. He just came to my house. He looked terrified. Hannah turned pale. He said he needed help, Mrs. Langley continued. He said he didn't know what he'd gotten involved in. My heart stopped. Then Mrs. Langley added the words that shattered everything. He asked me to call you, before they found out he left the house. I turned slowly toward Hannah. Her face had twisted. Fear, fury, panic all tangled together. He's lying, she hissed. He wouldn't, but before she could finish, her phone buzzed. A message came through. She read it. Her eyes widened. Her breathing quickened. Then she whispered, No, 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 no. She looked up at me, eyes blazing with desperation and rage. You need to tell me right now. Where is he? Hannah's voice cracked with panic. Where is he? Her mask was gone. No calm, no control. Just raw fear twisting her face. I didn't answer. I didn't need to, because she was already unraveling. She stormed past me and down the porch steps, frantically scanning the street, as if my son might materialize out of thin air. Mrs. Langley stepped closer to me, her voice trembling. Franklin, he was shaking, she said. I've known that boy since he was little. I've never seen him look that scared. My chest tightened. What did he say? I asked. She held her phone out to me. It's all here. I recorded everything. I stared at her. You, what? She swallowed. I heard shouting from your house earlier. I didn't know what was happening, so when your son knocked on my door, I pressed record, just in case. I tapped the screen. My son's voice filled the air, ragged, breathless, panicked. Please, I don't have long. She can't know I'm here. I need help. My heart twisted. Next clip. My wife's family. They're not just in debt. They're in deep trouble, and they're dragging me into it. Another clip. They forged documents. They used Dad's information. They told me if I didn't agree, something bad would happen. My hand shook. Mrs. Langley whispered. He said they threatened him. I blinked hard. Threatened? Him? But the next clip answered it. They said if I resisted, Dad would pay the price. I don't know what they meant. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just manipulation. This wasn't guilt-tripping or emotional abuse. This was organized exploitation. A family working together, coordinated, calculating, predatory. And my son, my gentle, soft-spoken son, was their puppet. I took a shaky breath. Where did he go? I asked. Mrs. Langley hesitated. That's the thing, Franklin. He didn't leave. I frowned. What do you mean? She pointed toward her backyard, toward a narrow path leading between two properties. He hid there, she whispered. He said he couldn't go home. He said they were watching him. He said, footsteps thundered up behind us. Hannah. Her face was twisted with fury, eyes wild, hair sticking to her forehead like she'd been running. Where is he? She shrieked. Miss Langley stiffened, her voice small but steady. He came to me. He asked for help. Hannah's expression mutated, fear collapsing into rage. You stupid old woman, she snapped. You don't know what you've done. Then she turned on me. And you've ruined everything. I stepped forward. What did you do to my son? I demanded. She hissed through her teeth. You don't understand what we're protecting. Protecting, I repeated. From what? Silence, she screamed. She looked like something inside her was breaking apart. She began pacing frantically, running her hands through her hair. They weren't supposed to involve you yet, she spat. You were supposed to stay out of the way. You were supposed to let him handle things. I stared at her, heart pounding. Handle what? She froze. Her eyes slowly lifted to mine, and in them I saw the truth, fear, guilt, and something darker. She opened her mouth to speak, but a shout cut through the air, my son's voice. Dad! We spun toward the sound. He stumbled from behind Mrs. Langley's shed, out of breath, face red, eyes wet with panic. Hannah, stop, he begged. You're making it worse. She lunged toward him. Michael, you idiot. Do you have any idea what you've done? He backed away, shaking. I'm done, he whispered. I'm done lying. I'm done hiding. I'm done letting your family decide my life. Her face twisted. We saved you, she screamed. We saved your parents. We saved your future. He shook his head. You destroyed my father's savings. You used me. You forged his name. And you told me if I didn't go along with it, Dad would suffer. He choked on the last word. I froze. What? They threatened me? Hannah stepped toward him again. You weren't supposed to tell him, she spat. You weren't supposed to talk to anyone. He held up his hands, crying now. I can't do this anymore, Hannah. I want out. She went still, perfectly still. Then she whispered with terrifying calm, there is no out. He flinched. I stepped between them. You come near him again, I said, my voice low but shaking with fury, and I swear, you, she laughed. A retired old man with no savings? With a forged loan in his name? Who do you think they'll believe? The truth, I said. She smirked. We control the truth. I opened my mouth, but my son suddenly gasped, Dad, behind you! I turned, too late. A shadow stepped from behind the fence, a man I'd never seen, stocky, broad-shouldered, face emotionless. Then another behind him, then a third, all silent, all watching. Hannah's voice dropped to a whisper, Franklin. This is bigger than you think. And then the first man started walking toward us, slow, deliberate, purposeful. Hannah wiped her tears, straightened her clothes, and whispered the words that turned my blood to ice. You weren't supposed to know any of this. But now that you do, someone has to take responsibility. She nodded toward the man approaching me. Not at Michael, not at her, at me. And that's when I understood. They weren't just after my money, they were after my silence. The man kept walking toward me, slow, heavy steps, like he'd already decided what my fate was. My son grabbed my arm. Dad, run! But my legs wouldn't move, not from fear, from fury. 64 years of survival, loss, sacrifice, and now strangers thought they could erase me like a name on a bill. No, not today. I stepped forward, placing myself between the man and my son. You want to threaten someone? I said. Try me. The man reached for me, but before he could grab my shirt, a voice thundered across the yard. Police! Hands where I can see them! Floodlights burst across the lawn. Officers poured in from both sides, 3, 5, 8 of them. Hannah's face strained of color. Mrs. Langley whispered beside me, I called them the moment your son came to my door. For the first time in this nightmare, I felt the world tilt back in my favor. The officers separated us instantly. 2 grabbed the approaching man. Another cornered the others. One approached Hannah, who tried to hide her phone behind her back. Ma'am, the officer said, we've received a report of financial fraud, coercion, and threats. You'll need to come with us. Her mask shattered. You don't understand, she screamed. He's the But the officer cut her off. Ma'am, we heard the recording. Her eyes snapped to Mrs. Langley, pure hatred. Then the officer played the audio, my son's trembling voice confessing everything. Their forgery, their threats, their plan to isolate him. And the warning that I would pay the price. Hannah lunged forward screaming, you ruined everything, but it was over. Handcuffs clicked around her wrists. Her family was restrained. Her influence shattered. My son collapsed into me sobbing. Dad, I'm sorry. I didn't know how to get out. They said if I told you, something bad would happen. I held him tightly. You're safe, I whispered. You're safe now. Officers led Hannah and her relatives away. Their empire, control, fear, manipulation, crumbled in minutes. Later that night, after statements were filed and the street quieted, my son looked at me with swollen eyes. Dad, do you hate me? I shook my head. No, son, I hate what they did to you, not who you are. He broke again, but this time into relief. And when I walked him home, hand on his shoulder, I realized something. They drained my savings. They forged my name. But they didn't win. Because nothing, not debt, not threats, not family pressure, is stronger than a father fighting for his child. Not then, not now, not ever.